The name of the king in question is Yeongjong. Yeongjong is known as one of the greatest kings in all of Korean history, but he's also known for baking his son alive. In order to better understand why this happened, let's do a quick character study. It all starts with a nice, innocent little boy named Sado, born in 1735. His mother was one of the concubines of King Yeongjong, and he was born as heir to all of Korea. So, what was the issue with that weird king? Who would ever want to bake this little boy alive? Well, if you've heard of the likes of Nero, or even Henry VIII, this little psychopath blows them all out of the water. At first, Sado did everything that was expected of him. He married at 8 years old, which is a good thing, apparently. And then he was even appointed regent so he could learn to rule. I mean, he seems fully baked to me. All in all, he was a relatively normal child until he turned 9 years old. Around this age, Sado was struck with a vicious illness, making him fall unconscious repeatedly. Some think that lack of oxygen could have caused the brain damage that manifested in his later behavior. The cracks started to show when Sado developed a variety of, hobbies. One of which was some completely harmless, light reading. It happened when he was reading a Taoist text. Sado began to hallucinate a terrifying thunder god related to his readings. For the rest of Sado's life, he was terrified of not only thunder itself, but also the symbol meaning thunder on the cover of the book and anywhere else he saw it. Must have been quite the experience. Does this scare you? Nah, that's chill. Alright, what about this? Honestly, I think it's pretty cute. What about this? Despite this, Sado seemed to have been relatively harmless as a child, if not a bit strange. Unfortunately, King Yeongjo was a highly traditional man. He took issue with a few of Sado's proclivities as he got older, especially once tragedy hit the family with the death of Sado's mother and sister within a month of each other. When Prince Sado came to mourn his dead mother, King Yeongjo flew into one of his classic rages, berating Sado until he promptly fled by jumping out a window. As you do. Now, Sado's preferred method of escape was clearly the dolphin dive, as during one particularly bad berating, he attempted to jump in a well while his father was angry at him for committing incest.
What is wrong with you? Why can't you just be normal?
It's not a phase, Dad! She was really hot.
Son, you're a f***ing disgrace.
Yeongjo utterly terrified young Sado, causing him to act timid and further enrage his father with what was seen as weak behavior. Yeongjo would loudly critique his son in front of the whole court, constantly embarrassing the young man.
Sire, all my livestock have been ravaged. The harvest is bad. Everyone's starving on the streets. There's no one left.
I mean, do you think you maybe scared them off, man? I mean, you're fucking hideously ugly.
Sado, this man might be shockingly hideous, but at least he isn't weird as fuck like you.
Suffice it to say that Sado's upbringing wasn't exactly healthy. As Sado passed from childhood to young adulthood, he became erratic, even dangerous. He made nonsensical requests, once even trying to blackmail the court into moving the capital so he could be closer to his favorite springs. But that was just the beginning for the prince. As Sado got older, his delusions became worse and worse, to the point that he started to refuse wearing clothing. If Sado didn't like a particular piece of clothing, he would, naturally, just light it on fire. This got so bad that his stipend as the literal crown prince of Korea was not enough to cover the expenses.
I don't like this one. Sir, what about this?
I hate it. So, apparently it was common for people to die attempting to clothe the prince, which makes this a true extreme sport. And yes, he is a very innocent little boy. But just you wait, because this is one of the more tame events in Sado's life. He was said to have decapitated one of his servants before displaying the head to the women of the court, including his wife. I'm not really sure why Sado did this, but my personal theory is that the servant was wearing a really ugly hat or something. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this is actually his first murder, so the man really just went all in from the get-go. I like to imagine it was this particular moment where Sato truly lost it. Before long, his vendetta against clothing would expand to other people as well. Sato got into an altercation with a nobleman and decided that he would exact revenge by infiltrating the palace and murdering the man's son. I have no idea what the man said, but probably didn't like his shoes or something. Sato was unable to locate the son, but he took something just as damaging. Or so he thought. In another instance, Sato fled the royal palace without permission, causing a panic amongst those meant to watch him. The solution was pretty straightforward. They just had a court eunuch feign sickness and lock himself in Sato's chamber, while the other servants pretended he was Sato. This particular incident is described as a welcome respite from the presence of the prince. I suppose a political crisis is better than dealing with a homicidal maniac. However, Sato's reign of terror would not last. In 1762, a rumor that Sato was plotting the murder of the king began to spread. This was the last straw for Yongzhou, who could not allow his insane son to become king. He decided that Sato must die. However, the blood of the royal family can't be spilt in Korean culture, so a unique execution was necessary. When I first heard this little story, I assumed he would simply poison Sato. Bloodless, relatively humane, and you even have plausible deniability. Yet, Yongzhou had a different plan in mind.
Hey, Sato.
Dad, how many times do I have to tell you I'm not wearing a shirt?
No, please, please! Ah!
Yongzhou would leave Sato trapped in the scorching sun for over a week without food or water until, presumably, Sato died of dehydration. If you thought Yongzhou was the good guy in this story, you may have been misled. King Yongzhou would then spend the rest of his reign attempting to wipe Sato from history. He even had his name banned. Fascinatingly, during the 1800s, there were some claims that Sato was never insane at all, that he was actually innocent of all these claims. Now, all the nerds with their big brains say this is not true, but it's interesting anyway. Before long, a very innocent little boy named Zhongzhou would become king after Yongzhou passed. In sharp contrast to the disgusting reputation of his father, Zhongzhou would be known as Zhongzhou the Great. One of Zhongzhou's first acts as king was to foil his grandfather's plan to erase Sato, accepting his troubled origins and allowing this stunning narrative to be told today.
Thanks, Zhongzhou. See, there's a happy ending after all. Well, sort of, kind of.